welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very inspiring show coming right up with special guest Barnet Bain. Now, many of you know Barnet and his work. He's an award-winning filmmaker, radio broadcaster, educator, creative expert, and author of The Book of Doing and Being. His select film credits include Milton Secret, which was just released, and he was the director and writer on that project. The Oscar winner, What Dreams May Come, he was a producer on that project. Emmy Award nominee, Outstanding TV Movie, Homeless to Harvard, he was executive producer on that. And The Celestine Prophecy, he was a writer and producer on that. Barnet consults and trains with business leaders and private clients who are committed to high performance. So let's welcome to the show Barnet Bain.
Thank you, Marianne. It's really a pleasure to be here with you today.
Oh, what an honor it is to have you here. I'm a big fan of your work, and, it's interesting. Just things come up at the right time, and I just kind of fell in love with your book and had to have you on the show.
It's always wonderful for an author to hear something like that, so thank you so much.
Well, and, we get our listeners, man, they write in all the time asking, what inspires people to write different things or follow different paths. And I'd love for you to share with us, because you've got this plethora of amazing work. And I'd love for you to share some of your inspiration. I know it all kind of centers around creativity.
It does, and below that, it all centers around consciousness and spirituality. Even deeper than that. In some ways, creativity is spirituality's work, love's work. And so I have been both discovering and being discovered by creativity and spirituality for as far back in my life as I can remember. And as I matured and grew, at some point I began to realize that my work is really all of the different ways that I can express my creativity and spirituality. So that includes writing, and it includes teaching, some coaching, some making of films. It includes my life as a husband and as a father, as a friend. They're all various expressions of how I do creativity and how I explore my relationship, my personal relationship to everything there is, which is another way that I guess somebody could define spirituality. It's certainly the way I define spirituality.
Well, I have to agree with you, because when I think of creativity for myself, there's so much spirituality that's intertwined in that for me, because it's all about the process of creating, whatever that might look like. It could be, a new relationship with, meeting new friends and being able to lend a helping hand, that kind of thing. So I love how you have that for you. It's just kind of intertwined as well.
Yes, it is intertwined. It's sort of how a fish in water, they say fish in water doesn't know it's in water. And in some ways, a fish in creativity doesn't know it's creative. We're all creative. Everybody's creative. The tools of creativity, there's tools, and there's raw materials. So the raw materials of creativity, and everybody has them, are the same raw materials as spirituality. And that is desire and imagination and expectation. And those raw materials are worked on with tools, and everybody has the tools. They're the same tools that we use to create a painting or a business or a marriage or a circus. These are the same tools that we use to create a life of purpose and well-being and meaning. Same tools. They're also the same tools that we use to create a life of disappointment and feeling helpless and hopeless and misunderstood. The same tools. The difference is, do we use them with awareness, with consciousness? And those tools that we use are our thoughts and our beliefs and our choices and decisions and attitudes and feelings. We take those tools and we apply them to the raw materials of desire and imagination and expectation, and wonderful things happen. The more that we're able to develop intentionality around that and self-awareness around that, and that we can become close and intimate with all of those raw materials and all of those tools, close and tender with them. We understand how they operate in us, and we understand the conditions that we have developed, that have as a result of the lives that we've lived, the way we were educated, and our exposure to things in the world. They can sometimes create barriers to us becoming close and tender with the origins of our beliefs and the origins of our thoughts, and they can shrink our imagination, reduce our expectation. So as we begin to develop a relationship with these tools and these raw materials, we can become more and more and more powerfully, wonderfully, magically creative in every aspect of our life and our love and our work.
I love how you affirm that everyone is creative, because I think a lot of times people get hung up thinking, well, that doesn't really apply to me. I'm really good at drawing stick figures, or I have, sometimes I hear people say, well, I have no imagination. And, and I love how you're really steadfast and everyone is creative.
Everyone. It takes the same creative tools and raw materials to assert that I'm not creative and I don't have any skills, and that requires the same raw materials and tools, beliefs and thoughts and choices and decisions and attitudes and feelings, and working with expectations. So I train myself to hold a certain belief, and I train myself to have diminished expectations, and I reduce my endless potential to imagine. I reduce it and reduce it and reduce it. That's a highly creative act. It's not a productive act, but it's a creative act. And then part of how we are conditioned in the world that we live in is we're trained, we're taught by the world, by all of the entertainment that we consume and the media we consume, by what we learn at school and in our religious traditions, what we learn from our family and friends and parents, and as well-meaning as they are, we learn that creativity is just a special domain for those of a very few people who are somehow more gifted or more talented or more athletic or more beautiful, or and that creativity is only the realm for that chosen few, and that the rest of us don't have that, and so that we think that creativity is limited to the arts or to sports, and that most of us don't have that. When the truth is that we learn to revere only one particular expression of creativity, just one particular expression, and that we call creativity, and everything else, in spite of the fact that it is all creativity, we are trained to not call it anything, just to call it life, and not to develop any ability to work with the lives that we lead in ways that they become more unpredictable and more powerful and more imaginative. We don't receive any training in that. So we simply think, no, this is just life, this is just the way it is, and creativity is solely the kinds of things that happen to the kinds of people that we see on the tabloid and the front pages of the tabloids at the checkout counter at the supermarket. Well, but the truth is, everything is a creative act. Everything. The only thing that exists is creativity.
And that's good for our listeners to hear, because I think you're 100% right. People do get hung up on, I have to be on a stage somewhere singing in front of hundreds of thousands of people or thousands of people in order for this to be considered creative or, succeeding in my creative endeavors. And it's so not the case.
Well, we think that the only thing that is creative is the ability to paint or to draw or to sing or to dance or to excel at sports. And this is what creativity is. And it's that's like, say, looking at the 125 pack Crayola box and pulling out yellow and saying only the yellow is a color. Only the yellow is creative. All the other crayons, they're not creative. And this is how we behave. This is how we treat creativity, through nobody's fault. It's simply everything about how we live, and every message in our culture says that. It all says that. The creativity is only one. There's only one expression of creativity, and if we can't, if we don't have gifts and talents that can express in that way, that we are uncreative. The larger truth is, every single act is a creative act. Every thought you have is a choice. Every feeling you have is a choice. Every emotion you have is a choice. When we become aware of that, then we can pick and choose those. And what unfolds from picking and choosing those is a very creative life. Another way of saying this is, I am more interested in artful living than in making a particular work of art, like a painting or a poem or a song or a business. I'm more interested in an artful life, where every expression of one's life becomes a conscious creative act, and that starts to look like an unusual life. That is not doesn't look like a conventional life. It somehow looks a little bigger. It looks a little juicier, and those people that are living in that way have satisfaction and a sense of well-being, a sense of purpose. They seem to be happier, less stressed. They seem to have a confidence that comes from a sense of deeply, deeply knowing that they are contributing consciously and with purpose. They are actively creating more and more, bigger and bigger pieces of what their life is about, and less so experiencing life in the way that it seems it's just happening to us. Life just happens to us. We go on, we do our best, and then life just happens to us. That's a different experience than knowing that you are creating it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, because one's completely just kind of being a ball in a pinball machine where you're just kind of bouncing around and things are happening to you, as opposed to, enjoying and creating what's taking place.
Yeah, exactly. I like that pinball machine metaphor. That's really good. Can I use that? I'm going to use that. Thank you so much.
Use it.
Thank you. I'm going to do that.
See what I learned from your book? I mean, my goodness, it's just all these metaphors are popping up, you know?
I know a lot of metaphors in that book, but not the pinball one. I love that one.
Yeah, well, because it's so appropriate, because a lot of times people feel like there's no control and things are just going on, you know, and it's so far from the case. And that's one of the many things that I really enjoyed about your book, is because it really it put people in a position where they can unshackle themselves from that line of thinking and move forward in a more, you know, fulfilling way.
Yeah, and it's almost like we have been trained to have this attitude and this relationship, to have this small relationship with creativity. It's not anybody's fault. Nobody did anything bad or wrong. It's just that everything in our lives and everything we experience in our lives supports this small definition of creativity. It supports that creativity is limited to mostly to the arts, and that unless you are an artist, that nothing else is a creative act. When that begins to shift, we begin to see our lives as creative acts. Mm-hmm. How we show up for our families, the attitudes that we have around our friends and colleagues, around our work, whatever our work is. When we come to it not like a ball in a pinball machine just getting knocked around by the circumstances and the situations, but that we have certain tools and certain abilities and certain skills that we can learn to respond to the bumpers in life, then suddenly the whole pinball machine, to really beat this analogy to death, the whole pinball machine gets so much bigger. So much bigger. The world of possibilities for each of us becomes so much bigger.
Yeah.
And then it looks to people who are looking on, it looks like, wow, she has all the luck in the world. But luck has nothing to do with it. The people say, how come you always get all the breaks? Or, you're just so lucky. I never have such luck. And this person's always lucky. But luck has nothing to do with it. They're skills.
Well, and that's so encouraging, especially for our listeners that may be new to your work, and of course, I highly suggest picking up the book of Doing and Being. But there are skills that can be taught. It's not like it's, regardless where someone is in their path, that they can't pick up your book and start learning today how to develop some of these skills.
Yeah, that's true. It's absolutely true. Creativity is a set of skills and abilities, outlooks, and practices that not only can be taught, it needs to be taught. If it's not taught, then what we teach each other and what we pass along to each other is what we already know. And one of the many treasures of creativity is that it's more interested in where we're going than where we've been. More interested in what we can discover or what we can learn than what we can reaffirm. And it's also interested in moving a little bit beyond just logic and reason, without losing sight of logic and reason. We don't want to just become unpractical and unhinged, but it occupies a slightly larger playing field, because there are certain things in life, edges of creativity, that don't fit into logic and reason. For example, humor doesn't fit in to logic and reason. Compassion for yourself or for another person There's nothing logical or reasonable about that. So there are other tools that that unlock creative potentials that have nothing to do with logic and have nothing to do with reasoning and thinking, that are in many ways not the result of the past.
I love that.
Something for all of our listeners to chew on.
And I'm sure they're chewing.
Great. Swallow, everybody. Chew, swallow, chew, swallow.
It's such a great list. I'm so glad that we're talking about your book today and spending this time together. And because I know that you teach thousands of top leaders all over in regards to, just the work that you do in bringing more creativity into not just their personal lives, but into work also. What are some of the surprising things that you see?
Oh, my goodness.
Or does nothing surprise you anymore?
Well, it's all surprising. It's all exciting and surprising and very moving and very emotional. I had one student who was a therapist in a home for young girls, most of whom were very abused and very cut off from themselves. And she was in one of my classes for a year. And she said that these girls, as long as she'd been there, which had been many years as a therapist, they'd never really had a big success story. And one example was this one girl that she was working with. They all would come in and they do pictures. They drop art therapy and they do pictures about what their life, their ideal life would be like. And so this girl was drawing a picture of airplanes and mansions and people dancing at swimming pools and bikinis with big dollar bills hanging out of their waist and tucked into their waistline, and yachts. And as my student was developing and growing with these practices, and she began to bring them into her work, and the end result of this, I'm just going to fast forward to the end, is that she made this dramatic connection with this young girl who left and then came back and opened up to her. And when the next time they did this art therapy project, the same girl drew a picture of a little house with a little fence around it for safety, and a mommy and a daddy and a little girl and a little dog. A very, very different kind of set of expectations and imaginings that had been opened in this little girl. And that little girl, in her wake, she was quite charismatic and influential. All of the other young girls in the house, not all, but many of them, followed her into a new relationship with their own ability to imagine and dream and conceive. And so that kind of thing is, it's both very common and it's also always very moving and very emotional to witness and to see people flowering into a fuller expression of who they are and the kind of impact that we can have on each other in the world.
What a beautiful story, and talk about impact, because you just never know, how that touches all these different young ladies as they progress in their lives. But obviously, the impact's been so profound; they're carrying it with them,
Yeah. So it's beautiful and very moving, and so satisfying.
That is, my goodness. I mean, what a Yeah, that must make you smile at the end of the day. Like, gosh, I did a pretty good
It
job.
feels
These are some of the results.
it's yeah. It feels I think when people are creating, people always create because they have a desire, and the desire is to make change for the better, to create something because you want something to be better or more efficient or more beautiful or to have more possibilities. And that underlies the urge for all creation. And so when these kinds of, when you have these sort of feedback that the things, the creativity ripples out into the world and fosters more creativity and more change and more beauty and more impact and enriches people's lives, it's incredibly satisfying. It's so beautiful. As I say, creativity is love's work. And so as people learn how to develop their creativity, it has impact, and it ripples out. It unhooks love, and love comes back. Feelings of being seen and heard, and that people discover that they matter in ways that they didn't understand before, and that they're valuable, and those energies become unlocked in people, their lives become larger. And that's really what creativity is about. It's very, very different than, as we said earlier, than the way our society teaches us the only thing that is creative is the ability to draw or paint or write a poem or music or dance. Those are really creative, but they're only a few different colors in a palette of expressions of creativity that is infinite. It's infinite. And the big takeaway is how creatively does one lead one's life. That is much more important than whether or not you can sing or dance. Much more important.
It really is.
And
having
these skills,
life, gosh,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and these skills, by the way, more often than not, they enhance our abilities to write or to paint or to draw or to create relationships or families or find partners or make businesses. They absolutely enhance those capacities. But the most important piece for me is that they make our lives, every aspect of our lives, a creative act, and we begin to become artists of life.
What a beautiful book. I mean, I can't recommend it highly enough. I love it. And I know I have some friends that are going to be coming to visit me in a couple of weeks, and they always go through my books, and that's one they can't leave with. So I'll have to get them copies.
Thank you. It's beautiful.
Well, and I mean, my goodness, I consider you a creative genius. You've got all these wonderful things that you're doing that are just so impacting people in such a personal and profound way. Another one of your topics, your projects that you worked on, I'd love to talk about is Milton's Secret. And I just love it. And I think it's something that people, if they haven't seen it, they need to get that as well, either download it or go buy the DVD. But I found that to be so profound. It must have been amazing working on that project.
It was so fun. For those that don't know, Milton's Secret is a movie that was made last year starring Donald Sutherland and Michelle Rodriguez that I wrote and directed, based on it was a short story, a short book, a children's book by Eckhart Tolle that I adapted into a feature-length film for the whole family. And it has to do with a young boy and his parents are dealing with financial issues and marriage issues, and the boy is also being bullied at school, and he has a relationship with his grandfather, played by Donald Sutherland, who comes to visit, and Donald Sutherland is an ex-military person, an old soldier, and who over his long life was not the best father and not the best grandfather and not the best husband, and has not missed a war since Korea, but has lost comrades and wives, and eventually had his heart broken so many times that he became wise. And he has, not that one needs to have a heart broken to become wise, but he has learned to devote his attention to what is happening in front of him. And so Milton, the boy, has an experience with his grandfather of really being seen. When he's with his grandfather's not thinking about something else. His grandfather, he allows him to be seen and to be heard. And Milton has an experience that it is not what he does in the world, but who he is that is lovable. And that he can, out of that, he can begin to learn to trust himself because he's seen by somebody else. So it's quite an impactful movie, and it's been doing very well. As a matter of fact, it's currently running on Starz Network. I don't know when. By the time our listeners listen to this, it may be sometime in the future. It may not still be there, but it will always be available on Amazon or iTunes or any of those other places that we download or buy or rent films. So it's called Milton's Secret, and it was incredibly fun to make. I was blessed with the most wonderful actors, and Eckhart Tolle is a really wonderful man and a wonderful teacher as well, and he provided the basis for such a satisfying movie about so many issues. The movie is also about bullying. But we're used to thinking about bullying as what happens when somebody physically or emotionally picks on another, and all that is true. But in the movie, we explore bullying in that way, and also the origins of it, because I feel that bullying begins with the internal thought stream that happens. And it begins very young, where we have these thoughts that say, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't matter enough, I'm not enough. And when we are small children, we live in a family where the parents are distracted, as they are in Milton's Secret, with their own anxieties and issues. Then that little boy learns by watching his parents that they feel bullied by the mortgage, bullied by their job descriptions and responsibilities. And they feel bullied by the pressures of life. And as a result, there's less intimacy with the child. And so that it begins to spread. And the child learns these internal messages and learns to judge themselves. And it begins to spread from the outside in. And then we begin to realize that bullying is just so prevalent in our society. Bullying by running our financial worries, all of the thoughts and all of the energies that are going constantly in the head that are bullying us. And they eventually find expression in our behaviors in the world. Milton becomes quite submissive, and the next door child has a similar thing going on, and his response is not to become submissive, but it's to become dominating. And that's like gas and fire when they live next door. So there's lots and lots of topical themes and ideas that are explored in the film, and I hope our listeners will enjoy it.
Well, I enjoyed it immensely, and it's good for all ages, I felt,
Yeah.
Families can get together and watch it, or you just need a great movie to watch on the weekend, something that is going to make you feel good and has a great message. I just loved it.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you liked it. Really loved making it.
Well, and I know that you have a website where you have all this amazing stuff so people can learn more about the work that you're doing. What is that website?
It's www.barnetbain.com. Barnet Bain, it's BarnetBain, one word, barnetbain.com.
Well, and I know you usually book out quite a bit with people requesting to work with you. So are you still accepting any new people that perhaps want to do coaching with you, or is there a waiting list for that currently?
I would like to speak to anybody that has a desire to work with me. So it would begin by reaching out to me on the website, and we can explore from there.
And take it from there. Well, Barnet, it's been such a joy to spend this time with you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here today.
It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much. I hope we can do it again soon.
My gosh, thank you so much, Barnet. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you. I hope we get to do this again soon. You are a real-life inspiration, both on the silver screen and in writing. It's been such a joy to spend this time. Again, if you want to connect with Barnet Bain, you can at his website at barnetbain.com. I highly suggest you pick up his book, The Book of Doing and Being, and make sure to watch his movie, Milton's Secret. I'm going to be watching it again this weekend with some friends, and it's a great movie to gather around. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary. A recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Thursday, Friday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.